Some of the Valley's biggest names set to go public this year, and a lot of them have something in common, a link to Peter Thiel. Deirdre Bosa has more on the investor and lightning rod behind this year's biggest IPOs. Deirdre.
John, call it the empire of Peter Thiel, from PayPal mafia to Facebook board member, co-founding Palantir and VC firm Founders Fund to tech's most prominent Trump supporter. He is one of Silicon Valley's most important power players. Except he doesn't really like Silicon Valley. Despite all of those ties, he relocated to LA a few years ago, unsatisfied with the left-leaning politics of the Bay Area, calling Silicon Valley a one-party state. Now, since then, he hasn't spoken much to media, and he declined an interview with us today. But his hand and perhaps his influence can be seen in the upcoming class of tech listings. His VC firm, Founders Fund, is an early investor in Airbnb, Compass Pathways, and Asana. He was an individual investor in Asana and Luminar at their seed stage. And of course, he helped found Palantir and remains one of its largest shareholders, with a third of those controversial F or founder shares. Now, Palantir also recently left the Bay Area, moving its headquarters to Denver. Echoing Thiel's satisfaction with the Valley, CEO Alex Karp cited the, quote, increasing intolerance and monoculture of Silicon Valley. Now, his letter, Karp's letter in Palantir's S1, its prospectus, went even further, criticizing other tech companies that, quote, sell, collect, or mine data built on advertising dollars. Now, agree or disagree with those sentiments, Thiel and his network, they certainly do things differently. And we're seeing some of the companies backed by him or his network do public listings a little differently as well. Instead of traditional IPOs, Palantir and Asana, they are pursuing direct listings. Luminar is planning a reverse merger IPO. Now, to be clear, guys, we do not know if this was Thiel's influence, but it certainly is worth watching what this new crop of public companies do and how they behave. It may be different from what we're used to from the Valley. Back over to you, Julia.
Yeah, Deirdre, it's really interesting. It certainly seems like Palantir's decision to move to Colorado must have been influenced by Thiel. Thiel, of course, chairman of Palantir there. But I wonder if you have a sense of how much he's involved in each of these companies. I mean, obviously, he's chairman of Palantir, but he also has this investing business. Where do you think he's spending the majority of his time right now?
Well, Julie, as you know very well, he's also a Facebook board member, so he is busy. He has a ton more investments. We only talked about the ones of the companies that are pursuing public listings, so I doubt that he's very involved, except for the ones that he's on the board of or helped found, like Palantir. But certainly with that letter from Alex Karp, a lot of that sentiment has been something that Thiel has been saying for years already. And, you know, many in the Valley were kind of shocked by it. But this is something that we've heard from him and his network over the last few years. So certainly at a place like Palantir, for some of the other smaller companies, it's unlikely that he's super involved.
Yeah, Deirdre, it's just amazing to me. Either Peter Thiel or maybe PayPal itself is like the Kevin Bacon of Silicon Valley. I mean, connected to everything. I mean, Reid Hoffman was there, who's very much active politically on the other side of the aisle from Peter Thiel. Elon Musk, of course, was connected to PayPal. Max Levchin, who's very much in fintech these days. So, I mean, that's part of how Thiel and people like him, there are a few, just a very few, can get their fingers in so many different kinds of things.
Yeah, and with very different philosophies as well, right, John? I mean, you named all these people who have become hugely influential people in the Valley, in business, but with different views that sometimes come up against each other. Let me float something by you. Palantir Mafia. That could be the next one that we see. We've seen some of the most influential people at this company go on to do different things. So that's another company to keep your eye on, especially with sort of the same values, perhaps, or at least willingness to do things differently in tech.